Hi, I'm Kendall Chiarelli, and welcome to the 12th year of the Best of the Filmmakers Show with Jerry and Joann Parisi.
Welcome!
Welcome! Welcome!
Welcome!
And welcome!
Welcome to the Best of the Filmmakers Show.
And welcome, everyone. We are here with the 12th year of the Best of the Filmmakers Show. Myself, I'm Jerry Parisi. Here is my partner in crime, the best wife in the world to me. Then again, I don't have that many wives. And
Here we go. He's starting already.
I'm starting it already. But we have a great friend here today, and he is so superb and so meticulous, and he's such a perfectionist with what I love, subway trains and model railroader. And since you guys voted last year that he was one of the #1 shows, we've got him back. Tim McLaughlin. Tim!
Hello there, Jerry. Hi, Joann.
No, you're like the mayor of this big city. That's
Oh, gosh.
your train mount's probably like the size of 2 Intrepids stretched out. And everybody admires the work you do that have seen the last show. In fact, the amount of questions I had were amazing. And today we're going to pose some of them for you. But before we begin, tell us a little bit about yourself, the layout itself, and if you want to show some of that on different screens, be our guest.
Well, thank you. And so when I started in the hobby, I wanted to build a layout. I started on this layout, and it's about, 13.5 by 21 feet in size. It's in a separate building from our home. One of my hobbies before this was having special automobiles. And so this garage was built for that, but built fully insulated, temperature controlled, humidity controlled. And so it's perfect for a layout. And that's where we are today.
This question was, what inspired the design of your layout? Now that's pretty important because of the complexity of the rapid transit interacted with your freight trains, along with with buildings that are probably as tall as the ones in New York City in your garage there. So what inspired you to the design of that layout?
Well, it started off, I was inspired by Franklin and South Manchester, or Manchester and South Franklin Railroad, and also the Rod Stewart. I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear you.
George Celios layout?
Yes, exactly.
Was his name George Celios?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes, and then Rod Stewart's layout. So both of those had Rod Stewart's is fully urban as far as I can see. And George Celios's was at least had an urban area. Of this period, I'm modeling the 1930s, so pre-World War II, right in the end of the Depression. It's a wonderful time to model because it's got steam, electrics, and the diesels are starting off. The city has a lot of interesting history and a lot of interesting things to model. So why did I get into a city? Well, it started off because I grew up around a railroad, the Norfolk and Western Railroad in Virginia, and my dad worked for them and my grandfather worked for them. I wanted to model that. But as I kept building it, I wanted more and more of a city, and I wasn't getting that satisfaction or what I needed from Norfolk. So I wound up building New York, Midtown, Manhattan. Brooklyn is a really interesting place to model, all in the 30s, and then the layout sort of built itself around that. Now I designed the layout. It's not that complicated in design in the sense that it's basically a multiple dog bone bent back on itself and intertwined.
Did you use a computer to program to design it, or?
I'm someone who actually designs first by sketching something out on paper. It enables me to have sort of a tactile interaction with what's going on and helps me think. And yeah, so I sketched it out, and then of course I made a more formal sketch using a grid-lined paper. Got the measurements correct, and then actually taped it off the entire layout on the floor of the garage, so that I'm certain that I had the measurements of the radii within parameters that would fit in the space that I had for them. And that also helped to design what the bench work would be. So then I taped off the area that would support this railroad. So that's how the whole thing came about.
did you have photos? Like, are there technical things that you really wanted to go look back at and use real photos to see if you doing it correctly?
Yes, but not now. You mean photos as far as the technical aspect of building the layout, or photos as far as the scenery and how I made it look?
Both.
I probably learned nearly everything about putting the track together, the wiring, how to lay it out and make it work from YouTube and from online. There are so many resources. I didn't have somebody walk in here and say, Tim, this is how you're going to do this, or you should do it. So everything from wire size, the type of controllers, to how to solder the tracks, how often wires should be connected to tracks, the size of the turnouts, everything came from research on the internet. And basically I tried to make it be whatever the experts said, because I didn't know what I was doing. Here's what you need to do. You know, you definitely need to have this gauge wire. You definitely need to solder every 3 feet, all the joints, that kind of thing. Then I, as far as building the scenery and the buildings, I used photographs as inspiration. You might find small areas that are almost exact to the photograph, but overall, because of the constraints of size, my space, operability of the layout, what I could myself do, I vary from the photographs. So I would say most of the layout is based on photographs. You were to see parts of my layout, you'd go, oh, that looks like a photograph I saw. I could show you a photograph that had inspired me. But as a matter of fact, I think, Jerry, you sent me one of a elevated, that was a set of curved tracks with, I believe it was like, I don't know, maybe an R9 or something running on it. And I showed you, I sent a picture back saying, oh, I know that photograph because that inspired this area of my layout. But it's not the exact same thing. It just sort of looks like it, gets a feel of it. feel of it.
Amazing because it looks so good
Mhm.
when you see this stuff. It's like, oh my gosh. I really had to look twice, and this is a strange thing. I looked at the photograph of the real thing and said, is this a model? And then I sent it over to you because I realized, okay, it's not a model. And all of a sudden you send me back what's a model. I'm like, oh my God. Other than the camera, this is almost like real, which is amazing. It's but since you started the original design, I imagine someone like yourself who's a perfectionist, you've had some changes to that. What are some of the biggest changes maybe since the beginning of your original design you've implemented?
The probably the first change was correcting a major mistake. I mean, this was a snafu. Completely installed all of the styrofoam. I use styrofoam for the surface, styrofoam on a wooden benchwork. But the styrofoam needs to be level and smooth. And so I went out and bought what I thought everybody else was buying from what I'd researched, is home insulation. And I completely glued that down with insulation glue for homes, and it was in there like concrete. It turned out not to be at all level, rippled. It was a total mess. I tried belt sanding it. That created an absolute hellscape because there's just this powdered styrofoam everywhere. So I stopped that. I really had no choice but to pull it all up, spend the money to do so, and then buy. And I know people will say, no, we use home insulation all the time. All I can say is it must be different in different areas of the country, because the insulation I could get my hands on here was not very good. So I used a styrofoam that was meant for train layouts, and it turned out to be flat, level, smooth, everything I needed it to be. So that was my first biggest change, and that was just to correct a mistake. My first train layout design change was I had run a complicated set of tracks in the back up against the wall. And to simplify the explanation, I wanted one track to be visible, the other two tracks to be covered but then visible later, and it caused a kind of twisting of tracks around each other to get that done. When I wound up deciding that I wanted all the tracks exposed, because what I found out after I designed the layout was, all the back tracks on my layout are covered. And I wasn't happy with that. I wanted more exposure of tracks. So in that case, I untwisted those tracks, they'd already been laid. They'd been glued down. The tracks were there. I'd been running trains on it. So I had to tear that all up. And that was probably 20 feet of triple track. Tore it all up, so 60 feet of track altogether, and relayed it.
Wow.
That's right. So that being said, and the fact that you have buildings that rival the real Empire State, how tall are your buildings?
They are probably the tallest building is about pushing 36 inches, so 35 and a half inches, 36 inches. They sit on a 5-inch city platform that I built so that I could have a subway system underneath.
Right.
And then the whole layout sits up about 44, 45 inches.
So is it kits or everything's made by you?
Probably the simplest way, I'll try to make this a simple answer. I tend not to do that. But so I'm going to split it up into 3 categories. The first category are buildings that I've completed and are in place. Those buildings you see there, okay? The next category would be buildings that I've chosen and I've started building them and likely at least have paint on them, but they're just placed on the layout temporarily until I can get to finalizing them with windows and detail and all that. And then the third category is just simply placeholders, buildings that are just tossed on the layout to help me think about what I'm going to do eventually, as well as cover the space so it doesn't look like a whole lot of blank area on the layout. Gives it a sense of completion. So the first category are kit bashed, where I take various kits, pull parts out of them, and glue them together to create a whole new building. Then 3D printed, which I'll add detail to, paint, so that gray building right there that you can't quite see, there, that one right there, That is 3D, but it's completely redone with windows, painting, detail, etc. And then in addition to that, I've got buildings that I have, let's see, there's one building that, well, they're all kit bashed. So in that category, back in Brooklyn. Okay, I do have some reclaimed buildings back in my Brooklyn area, which is behind me. Reclaimed, rebuilt. So what I've done there is I've found vintage buildings that modelers many years ago probably put together. And if they're unusual and they fit what I want, which was perfect for Brooklyn, then I will pull them apart, re-glue them, or if they're put together pretty well, I'll just simply repaint them, weather them, and give them a new home on my layout. Okay? So then the second category are 3D and off the shelf. There's only one off the shelf building in my whole layout, and that one was made by Lionel. It was I think a centennial of the Grand Central Terminal. And they made it they didn't call it HO scale. They said they're smaller scale, and it's HO. And I could not find or build from scratch or anything as nice as that building they created. So that's off the shelf, but I'm going to pull the windows out because they're just simple acrylics. Pull the windows out, put frames in them. I'm going to redo it with a lot of detail, but the base was just off the shelf. And then when the third category, those are mostly reclaimed buildings. Oh, I do have a couple of scratch buildings tossed in there too. So 3D, kit bashed, scratch, and reclaimed. But I'm very happy with the way I've related it. The three exposed tracks.
Hi, I'm John Falenza. I'm the president of the fabulous 50s and 60s Nostalgia Car Club, and I'd like to welcome you guys to the 12th season of the Best of the Filmmakers Show.